Yeah. I'm just gonna pick it up.
It's light.
Hmm?
It's light, and the legs are open.
I'm on camera. I'm gonna put this up on camera.
His life is better from this elevator over there. They're too far away over there. You would wish you guys would.
No, no, because then he's on camera. I like this. I just happen to think we should have put it on the tripod the other way around, so I wouldn't have the black thing in the middle. Is it too late to move it? I can move it if you help. Trust me.
Don't mind, though, you're gonna need to come over here, because I'm gonna be working on it. Yeah,
Don't worry.
so you're saying,
Yeah, see,
so how,
I'll hold the camera. And then you go around. I'm sure nobody,
everybody's seasick.
nobody saw it.
That's why we do this 5 minutes before we start.
Prep. Whatever.
Yeah.
See, now I can see the whole image. It's 7.
Yeah.
Hello. Good evening, tea lovers. How are y'all today? Tonight?
We're a little rusty. It's been a while.
We're a little rusty. Yeah. When was the last time?
Did we do it in December?
Yeah, it was December. So yeah,
So
sorry. We've been.
Feeling a little out of touch with doing these things. But welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Tea for All Reasons. Marcia, I'm Jen, and we are excited to share with you tea and food pairings.
That's right. That's the program for tonight.
Yep.
And we have something else that's a little bit different. We have 2 guys helping us tonight.
Mm-hmm.
The hubby is the cameraman today.
Yep.
And
And my son is monitoring the comments tonight. Molly was feeling a little under the weather, so she's hanging at home, and so I brought Jessie with me tonight instead.
So welcome to our kitchen.
Yes.
And so
Okay.
are we ready to go?
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start off with the usual administrative type stuff. Just to remind you that Tea for All Reasons, you can shop online at teaforallreasons.com. And Marcia has a vintage shop on Etsy, vintageforallreasons.etsy.com, right?
Mhm.
And that's that. And then we do have a giveaway for tonight.
Yeah, I promised you a giveaway.
Yep, we always have a
Always
giveaway. So we're actually demoing several of the recipes that you find in Mom's cookbook. And so the giveaway for tonight is a Tea for All Reasons cookbook, if you don't have one already, and also a 2-ounce bag of French lavender rose black tea, and this is the old packaging. 2-ounce bag of French lavender rose black tea, and the key phrase to put in the comments for the giveaway is food pair. All one word, food pair is the giveaway phrase for tonight. So put that in the comments, and like I always do, tomorrow I'll go through all of the comments and I'll write down all of the names of anyone who used that code phrase, food pair, all one word, and Molly and I will draw the names out of the mug tomorrow afternoon sometime. And so that's the giveaway, cookbook, tea. And then the other thing I wanted to show, so one of the things that is now included on the website is a subscription box. It's quarterly. And so the first subscription box went out in January, although if you decide to sign up for a subscription box now, you'll get the January box, and then the next quarter is April. That's when it'll bill for the next one. And then April, May, June, July is the third quarter, and then October is the fourth quarter of this year. And what you get in the first box is 5 1.5-ounce tins, and these are the tins of tea. And so each tin will have a little bag of tea in it, 1.5 ounces. You get 5 of these, along with a perfect cup of tea spoon, and size 1 tea sacks. These are the size 3, which are good for a pot. What you get in the subscription box, just the first box, is a box of size 1 tea sacks, the 5 tea samples, and the spoon. And then each subsequent quarter, you'll get 5 1.5-ounce bags of tea. And you can keep them in this bag, it's a Ziploc bag, or you can transfer it to your tin that you get with the first box. And so that's a subscription box. If you go to the website, it should be the very first listing in the shop, and you'll see all the details and the price and all that there. And so that's that. And then I also wanted to let you know there is a coupon code effective tonight for all of y'all. It's FB as in Facebook, 15, and with that coupon code during checkout, you get 15% off of everything in the shop except for the subscription box and the samplers. But everything else, and there are a few sale items, those are not included as well. But pretty much everything else is included in the coupon code, and that goes through the end of this month. And first question is, are my teas organic? Yes and no. So they come to me very often. The tea blends come to me, and the package that I receive says organic. But once I open that bag of tea, I can no longer call it organic. So most of the teas that I get actually do have organic ingredients in them, in terms of how they're grown, processed, whatever. But I can't label any of my teas organic, and so I don't. But if you have a question on a particular tea, on if any of the ingredients are organic, you can definitely reach out to me. Info@teaforallreasons.com is my email, and I take questions anytime, or you can send me a question through the Facebook group. I'm on the group, in the group on Facebook quite a bit, and you can reach me through there too. Yeah. So we do have 2 pages on Facebook. I'm filling time. First is the page where you are watching this right now, and that is maintained by my mom. So she's the one who posts everything there, responds to the comments, and most of the questions that come into there. I take care of the group on Facebook, and it is listed as a private group, but I've only rejected a couple people because they look like spammers or bots or whatever. They had weird profiles, and so, or they didn't answer the questions. But pretty much everybody gets into the group, and I would love to see you in the group if you're not already a part of that. Just do a search in Facebook for Tea for All Reasons, and it should pop up. The cover on the page is tea, and it says Tea for All Reasons. So look forward to seeing you there if you're not there. And I think that's it
Okay.
on the administrative
All right.
things.
You know, first off, I wanted to say that we have decorated everything for Valentine's Day because we were supposed to do this last week, but we had some nasty weather, so we had to postpone to this week. So we wanted to continue with the theme, really, with the Valentine's, and because we already had the menu set and all of that. So that's what we're doing. That's why we're doing the red and the white and the pink and what have you, and why particular items on the menu. And as Jen said, I'll be referring to the cookbook for recipes. Everything that we did today come from the recipes that are in the cookbook. And by the way, it's available on Jen's website for $16.95. So you can order one, and so don't feel like you're not getting one if you don't win the giveaway.
Yeah.
You can buy one. And so one of the things about the cookbook that inspired me to do it was that many years ago I held conducted workshops, and we had set up all over our house 13 different themed teas. And so that was kind of the way this was born, because I was able to compile this with all the 13 different themed teas. And so the recipes tonight are kind of taken not just from one theme, like one obvious one would have been a Frosty Winter's Day tea, and or an obvious one would have been the romantic chocolate and roses tea, but we kind of took some recipes from each different section. So that's how we came up with that. But it's a great tool if you love having friends over for tea and you love doing a themed tea. This gives you the tools you need for your ideas and your recipes and your menus and your everything you really need. So okay.
So the goal for tonight is, the reason why we're doing tea and food pairings is because several of you asked how to know how to pair teas with food. And that's, we could have gone in so many different directions with that, because much like pairing wine with food or beer with food, even pairing sodas with food, or juice or whatever, it's all about the flavors and making sure that they're compatible. But to make it easy and not get too far into all of the possibilities, we decided to demo a typical classic afternoon tea.
Right.
And so that's what we're going to demo for you, and we'll kind of talk about the principles of why you would choose a certain type of tea to go with the food, based on how the flavor profiles work together.
Right. Yeah, as Jen said, you want them to be complementary. You want the teas to be complementary to the food, but you don't want them to overpower the food or compete with the food. And so you really want them to be complementary. And let me say, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's not something that's an absolute by any means. If you have favorites that you find work well with any of the 3 tiers, any of the 3 courses of an afternoon tea, then by all means, you don't have to do this, but we're just kind of giving you some suggestions because we did have a number of people who asked us to do this for you, and just some of the things that we've learned through the years of what goes with certain foods.
And I will say, so what we're talking about is when you are serving a tea. Like if you're gonna do tea for some friends or baby shower or anything, this is for you to know. So when you go to a tea room, they're gonna give you a menu and you choose your tea. They're not choosing your tea for you. So this is where going to a tea room is helpful. You can try a lot of different teas with the things on their menu, and you can figure out what you like and you don't like, and at home too. But what we're hoping to show you is how you can select a tea to serve to your friends or family or whoever. Because you're not going to give them a menu.
Right. And to expand your horizons a little bit, because I think, you know, even my hubby, when we go out for tea, he tends to go for the English breakfast. That's his favorite. It's his choice, and that's fine. And he'll have that throughout all 3 courses. But I love the adventure of choosing, and you know, especially if they're willing to give me more than 1 pot of tea. Yeah, I'm gonna figure out what I want with my savories and my scones, and then pick out something really special for the sweets course. So it just expands your, you know, that's one of the things that we want to do for you, is just open up a new world of tea for you, that it's not just black tea, it's not just black unflavored tea or black fruity tea or just herbals. There's a whole world of tea out there for you to try and enjoy.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Shall we start with the first course?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, one of the things that you will see done differently in tea rooms and even in people's homes is the 3-tiered tray server and what goes where.
I'm going to need that.
And typically the savory goes on the bottom. And so these are the savories that we selected for tonight. And the first one is the fresh tomato and Parmesan rounds with basil butter, these here. And these are one of my favorites. I keep going back to these time and again. They're great in the summertime, but really any time of year. And so the recipe for this is on page 35 of the cookbook. And it's one of those recipes where, here, I'll set it down here. One of these recipes that's really easy, and you can do it ahead of time, and then just put it under the broiler at the last minute. And so it's, I used French bread rounds spread with basil butter, and the recipe for the basil butter is in here. And when basil is fresh in the summertime, I'll purchase a bundle of it and make 2 or 3 crocks of the basil butter to have on hand. I put it in the freezer, and so this was one of the crocks I pulled out of the freezer and used on the tea sandwich. And then sliced thin Roma tomato and Parmesan cheese, and you can garnish with fresh parsley. I didn't have any fresh parsley, so we used dry parsley, but you can use parsley, you can use basil, and that's good too. So that's the first sandwich there. And then the second one is also one of our favorites, and we picked out our favorites actually. The roast beef and horseradish cream sandwich on a little potato roll. And this recipe is on page 55, and it's just so easy. And by the way, the horseradish cream I use not just for sandwiches, but we have it every year for our Christmas dinner to go with our beef tenderloin. And so, and again, you can make it the day ahead if you want to, but it's just so delicious and easy to do, and it's a wonderful spread for these sandwiches. And then we used fresh roast beef deli meat for the sandwich.
Shaved roast beef.
Shaved roast beef,
Yeah.
yeah. And then certainly, it's last but certainly not least, because for some people it's their absolute favorite, and it's a must for the tea table, and that's the cucumber sandwich. And Jen made these for us today, and this is on page 61, and this is a little bit different because typically a cucumber sandwich is bread that has butter spread on it, maybe some cream cheese or sour cream, and a little bit of salt and pepper, and then the sliced cucumber, and that's as simple as it gets. But there are other variations, and I like this variation because it gives it a little more tang, a little more interest. And on page 61, you'll see the recipe for cucumber ranch sandwiches. And this actually has some of the dried ranch salad dressing mix added to it, and it just gives it a wonderful flavor. And so I recommend that one, and that's also softened cream cheese with a little bit of mayo. So that's a little bit different, and so I hope you will check these out. I hope you will try them and enjoy them. Again, one of the things that occurred to me when I first started doing workshops was that many of the women, and there were some gentlemen who came too, they wanted simple food. They didn't want anything that was so complicated that they would feel intimidated by the recipes. They would feel as if they couldn't do it. It was just too hard. And so the recipes in this book are just that. They're easy, they're not expensive, and they're not time consuming and not complicated. So I hope that you will try them.
Okay, so pairing tea to those sandwiches. So what I was supposed to explain before we actually got into the food was I was going to give a little tea 101, and I've done this before, both in the Facebook group. I did a bunch of posts last summer on tea 101 explaining what black tea is, what green tea is, white tea, rooibos, herbals. And then also one of our early lives, I also explained all of those things about tea. So if you want to see any of our other live demonstrations, you can check on the Facebook page under our videos section, and they're all there. They should all be there. And so you can get a deeper dive into specific types of tea from one of our earlier demos. So just real quick, black tea is fermented. It's a stronger, more astringent flavor, and so that's something that you want to take into consideration when you're pairing it with food. And so for a savories course, I do recommend a black tea. That's traditional, and it's gonna balance better with a savory food that has a stronger flavor, is a bit heavier, for lack of a better word, and it's gonna it just pairs better. So what I'm going to show you, and it runs the gamut of black teas. You can go with a very basic Earl Grey. You can go with an English breakfast. You can go with an oolong. And the sky's the limit. You can go flavored. You can go just basic. So what I'm going to show you is we've got Mim Darjeeling, which is a black tea, but it's a lighter black tea. It's a milder, it's not quite as strong as like an English breakfast would be.
It's called the champagne of teas.
It's the champagne of teas. It's delicious, and it's a good solid choice. And then I also brought to show you our house blend, the Tea for All Reasons house blend, which is a blend of Earl Grey and Darjeeling. And so that Darjeeling kind of rounds out the Earl Grey, the bergamot, and the Earl Grey. And Earl Grey is a classic afternoon black tea. And then what I'm actually going to demonstrate for you is from our Downton Abbey collection. This is the Grantham Abbey blend. And it's a black tea with a little hint of grenadine flavor in it. It's a really nice black tea.
It just has an impression of richness to it. Not too overpowering in the cup by any means, and not too overpowering for savories. It's really a nice balance for savories.
Right. Oh, I forgot a timer. I'll use my, okay, so we're gonna let that brew, and I'll use my phone timer. Huh?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. I got a timer right here, Dad.
It's set.
Oh, you already set? You're awesome. Thank you. So we'll let that steep for 10 minutes, and then we'll check the color. I mean, 3 minutes, not 10 minutes. 3 minutes.
Ooh, that would be
That
strong
would be
tea.
some strong, bitter tea. 3 minutes with a black tea. We'll let that steep, and then you can already see the beautiful amber color that's coming out in that pot. And then I'll pour it into the cup, and then you can see how that looks. That would be delicious with all of those sandwiches. That little hint of the grenadine isn't gonna, it's not too fruity. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a really lovely, nice afternoon black tea.
Yeah, and the reason why I put the lid on, I don't know if you all know this, but it's really important when you brew your tea to put your lid on, because you don't want the steam to escape. You don't want the oxygen to escape. It really helps in the brewing process to keep that lid on and to keep it hot as long as possible.
Yeah. Now I posted this in the group, and while we're waiting, I'll explain it. Can you see that little hole? You want to make sure that the lid in your pot has a little hole like that. It's going to keep your lid from sticking in your pot, because the vacuum will build up in your pot when you put that lid on there. And if there's no hole in your lid, you're not getting that lid off of that pot.
Yeah.
Even with this spout, it somehow builds up a vacuum in there.
Especially with one like that, which has kind of a
Dome.
rubber seal.
Oh, and that too, yeah.
Rubber seal. But China pots very often won't have the hole, but they don't have the hole, but they will not rest real tightly on the pot. So they're probably okay, but definitely for one like that.
Yeah, has a little hole. Okay, how are we time-wise on the timer?
1 minute.
1 more minute? Okay, filling time. Okay, so one thing about black tea that's in my notes here, let me find it. It talks about that you can pair a black tea with some really hearty foods. Like for instance, there's a reason why English breakfast tea is called English breakfast tea. It's a strong black tea, and it is perfect with eggs, bacon, your favorite breakfast food, and Irish breakfast, Scottish breakfast, all of the breakfast teas, they're called that for a reason. They're great in the morning. They're a little higher in caffeine. It's a stronger black tea.
Right.
And they hold up to a fattier meal.
Right.
And it will hold up to like beef and stuff like that too.
Right. Right. And this is not something we were going to really focus on tonight. We're going to do it in another session, but the difference between an afternoon tea and high tea, which high tea is really an evening meal, so that would definitely be a case where black tea would be served.
Right. Okay, so I got the signal that our tea is ready, and well, of course, all the leaves are in there, so it's hard to see in the pot, but it looks like it's
Lovely.
beautiful.
Very nice.
That's beautiful. Look at that color. Fabulous. Now, someone asked, do you do it with milk or without milk? And we always say, that's up to you. That is entirely up to you. I do like milk in my black teas. And I tend to put milk in, especially if I'm drinking Earl Grey or just a plain basic black, I will put milk in it, and I do sweeten it. And you can use whatever sweetener is your preference, sugar, honey. You can use lemon, whatever you want to put in it. The ones that I don't like milk in are
Fruity
the
teas.
fruit, any of the super fruity and herbal. I'm never putting milk in an herbal tea.
No, they overpower them.
They don't go together.
Yeah.
But in black tea, I would say in any of the black teas, you probably could put milk in it, and it's going to be fine if that's your preference. Don't use cream.
Right. It's too,
Milk.
yeah, it's too heavy and it will
It
curdle,
will curl.
and it's just overpowering the beautiful flavor of the tea
Right.
when you use cream.
Right. And so there you go. You have your plate of sandwiches and your beautiful cup of tea, and you are ready for your savories course. And
Right.
I think
Okay.
it's making me hungry. Okay, so that's the savories, and yeah, there you go. Enjoy, Deb. Would you like the tea as well? Yep. Okay, there you go. So we have our first customer. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the next course. Oh, and we talked about, and we didn't mention this yet. In some American tea rooms, they will offer a soup or a salad course.
Yes. Mhm.
That's strictly American. I think we expect soup and salad as a starter option, and so a lot of tea rooms started offering that. But that's not traditional English afternoon tea, and so we're not demoing that. But if you are offered that in a tea room, I love the soup and salad course here in the States. Again, for that, I would recommend black tea primarily. So, is that a question?
Yeah, it is. The other thing is, one of the things that hubby and I have learned in our adventures of having tea all over the country and all over England is that in England, for an afternoon tea, they may start with fruit. They may start with strawberries and cream or some kind of a fruit compote. But I don't think we've ever encountered a salad or a soup being offered unless it's lunch, but it's not advertised as tea.
Right.
So, all right.
Did you know what that means?
No,
I
that's why
don't
I
know.
passed it to you.
How many will?
How many will?
How many does
How
that
many will
feed?
that feed? That's for 2.
No, this is for
For
4.
4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did this for 4.
For 4.
So basically you can do more sandwiches for 4, but we just did it for production purposes. One
Yeah.
sandwich
Of each type.
per person.
Right.
But sometimes tea rooms will offer more than that. Yes.
So from the cameraman's point of view, I seem to recall that when we would go into a tea room, we would get 4 little finger sandwiches apiece, and perhaps some other little savories as well. And so a triple like this would be for the 2 of us.
Yes, and they offer more than one scone per.
Yes,
But-
and usually champagne,
Yes, but for production purposes.
because we go big.
And space, we did just one item
Yeah.
per course.
And you can do other savories. If you've been to tea rooms, you know that very often they'll offer quiche or other types of savories. It doesn't have to be just sandwiches, but we're doing a traditional afternoon tea, which is typically sandwiches, scones, and a sweet.
Yeah, and we wanted something, taken from the cookbook that you would be able to use
Right.
away. See it, we're very visual, and we love being able to see what it looks like in the end. That's one of the things about the cookbook. It does not have photographs, but you really do want to be able to see what it looks like.
Right.
So.
And we got the tea or milk first question. That's up to you. So I learned in doing some research that the milk first started to protect the china. Old vintage china is very delicate, and it could crack if the hot tea or the boiling water or whatever hit it, especially if it was cold. And so they would pour the milk in first to temper the china before the hot tea was then poured into the china. With the way china is made today, you don't need to put the milk in first.
Unless you know that it's a piece of china, like Limoges is very delicate.
Yeah, if it's a really old,
Yeah.
delicate piece of china, put the milk first. Otherwise, if it's a modern teacup, then the milk can go in last.
Yeah, and certainly there's no etiquette
Right.
that dictates one way or the other.
Right.
It's funny how sometimes people will look to the queen to see what's the proper way of doing things. And everybody assumed that she put the milk in first, but she doesn't. She puts the milk in last.
Oh, good for her.
Yes,
Yeah,
she
okay.
does.
Okay.
All right,
So
we ready for scones?
next is scones, and while you're talking
Yes.
about that, I'm going to switch out our
Okay. So the scones course, again, in keeping with the Valentine's theme, and really kind of President's Day as well, we chose cherry scones. And if you have the cookbook or are getting the cookbook, it's on page 41, Marcia's cream scones. So this is my basic scone recipe, and here, let me pull this out for you so you can really see it. It's the basic cream scone recipe with the addition of the dried cherries. There they are. Lovely scones. And put a pretty strawberry there too. Okay. And then the addition for a topping, I decided on the almond cream, which is, that is on page 42. And it's a delicious accompaniment to that. You can use it by itself. You don't need Devonshire cream or jam or curd or anything else, just this. And I thought that the pairing of the cherry with the almond was really a good one, especially for this time of year. So the recipe for the almond cream is basically you heat up a little bit of cornstarch and brown sugar, and you add almond extract, cream cheese, and then sliced almonds go in the cream, and then a little garnish on the top. And so, and one of the things about scones is they should bake up so well that they just split apart. You don't even need a knife. And just put a little bit of that cream on there. And that's all you need. And probably would get a knife service with that to be able to spread that. But that's the dried cherry scone and almond cream for the second course. And as we were saying, in some restaurants you might get the choice of a fruit scone versus a plain scone, or you might have both. And you might get Devonshire cream, you might get jam, you have a lot of choices, but we're talking about for you serving your friends, this is just an easy accompaniment to go with your scones. And then the dipped strawberries and chocolate, the little garnish on there, and you're good to go.
Okay. All right. So I do want to let you know, some stores do now carry Devonshire cream or clotted cream. Now, like, does Trader Joe's have?
No,
No?
we haven't seen it.
It does?
No, our local store
Oh, your
does.
local store does.
Yeah.
Yeah, some grocery stores are starting to carry that. And so if you want authentic clotted cream, Devonshire cream, check in your grocery store if they've got a specialty,
Like a gourmet
like
section.
a gourmet section or
Yeah.
whatever, you can find that. But I've also found it on Amazon.
Yes, yes. they
And
do.
so if you want authentic Devonshire cream, clotted cream, you just search on Amazon and you can find it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's little jars, but it's been a while since I've looked.
Right.
But you can find it. But if you can't, then Mom's recipe is absolutely delicious and a good way to have a cream for your scones.
Right, and again, this is an almond cream, but there's also a recipe for mock Devonshire cream in here. And so if you want it without the almond flavoring and a more authentic tasting cream accompaniment to your scone, try the mock Devonshire cream that's also in the cookbook. And I'll look up that page number for you.
Okay, so for the scone course in a tea, this is where you can stay with a black tea, or you can move into green tea, white tea, rooibos, and on the rooibos tea. And I've shared this before, rooibos is a good alternative to black tea if you're looking for a decaf tea. And so anytime I'm talking about a black tea, you could choose a basic rooibos, which is a red bush tea. It's not the same plant as traditional tea, and it comes out of South Africa. It's a red needle, and I didn't bring a good one to show. But it's naturally decaffeinated. It's a great alternative to a black tea. It has a great flavor, and it's definitely something that would work for all of these courses. But what I chose to show you for tonight, for the scone course, is a black tea. This is sweet cherry almond. It is a flavored black tea. It's a really lovely black tea with a hint of cherries, a little bit of almond flavor. It does have almonds in it, and it's a nice accompaniment to the scones. And in this case, it would pair well because she did the dried cherry scone, and so it complements the scone with that cherry flavor. It mirrors it. Yeah. But what I'm going to demonstrate for you is new to the shop. I added it a couple months ago. It was part of the Advent calendar, and this is called Purple Rain. It's a green and white combo blend that features cranberries, apples, rose hips, malva flowers, and butterfly pea flowers, and it turns blue. The butterfly pea flowers give it a blue hue, like a bluish purpley color, and it's really beautiful. And it has a nice mild flavor, slightly fruity. Now green teas are a little more, the term is vegetal, grassy, because they're not fermented like a black tea. They tend to be milder. She's all right. They tend to be milder than a black tea. You definitely need to watch the steeping time because it will get super bitter if you steep them too long. Like understeep the green tea. You're better off understeeping it than oversteeping it because if it's bitter, it's almost undrinkable. And so I do recommend a green tea as you move into the scones and the sweets. It's a good complement. It goes really well with a salad, fruit salad. It's a nice complement to those kinds of flavors. Okay, so I'm going to do two. I want to make sure I get one of those butterfly petals in there a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to pour our hot water in there. And for green tea, your water wants to be just under boiling. Not quite, although I tend to have boiling water. And so we're going to let this steep for, I'm going to say 2 minutes because this is a green and white tea. And I don't like to steep white teas more than 2 minutes, depending on the blend. But this should come out to be a really nice purpley blue color. We'll find out when we pour it in the cup. But that's going to be a really nice accompaniment to that scone. Am I missing anything? White teas are a more delicate tea, and so I do like a white tea in the sweets course. Although I like a black tea in the sweets course too. It's what you're. That's a tougher pairing, but
Yeah, and that again goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning about what your personal choice is.
Right.
You know, if you're just a black tea person then select some that are in that variety for that. But another thing to keep in mind, when you're hosting, it's always important to understand or try to find out about your guests. For instance, I'm going to be hosting a baby shower tea next month, and obviously one of the guest of honor, is pregnant, and so I need to be sensitive to her as far as caffeine is concerned, and not to have anything that is too strong. So Jen and I already talked about what I might have for her, and I think we've decided on a green tea for the savories and the scones, and then we decided on an herbal for the dessert course. So that's a really important part, not just what you prefer, but what you think your guests are going to prefer.
Right. And another thing to consider too is allergies. So we do, okay, so that's pretty light, it looks like. But it is a green and white tea. Green tea is going to be paler than, oops. I probably could have steeped a little bit longer. It looks like we were getting the color in the bottom of the pot. But you can see that's a really pale lavender color. And part of that is the white tea that's in with the green. Green tea is very pale. White tea is even paler.
Yeah.
And then you got that little hint of the lavender from those butterfly pea.
You know, little girls would love that because they love purple tea.
Yeah. So, and it has a nice fruity, lightly fruity smell to it. I really love it. It's a great tea. It's good.
So you've got two, sample choices here. You can go either with the black for the second course or something milder.
Right.
And
But I was saying allergies.
Yes.
Yeah, so watch out for allergies. A lot of my teas do have almonds and nuts in them, and if you're, preparing a tea for some friends or with a baby shower, you want to make sure that you're not going to be serving a tea that has an allergen that could cause a problem for one of your guests.
Yeah.
And all of my teas, I make sure that they all are very clear that that any allergens that may be in them.
Yeah.
Not just nuts, but coconut, dairy,
Right.
soy, any of that.
Right.
So,
That's good. Okay.
okay.
Moving on, and this time I'm going to demonstrate the third course, which is the sweets course. Now, typically, you would get the top tier with wonderful variety of sweets. And when we were planning this, we decided to show you just one recipe. And so, yeah, great, thanks, hon. So I'm going to show you it's in the cookbook. It's the Foggy Day Trifle, and it's on page 5 of the cookbook. And I came up with this idea because every time I had an event or had women over for tea, I had scones left over. And of course, hubby would say, shock and horror, where was I? Well, I think you were working back then. So I would put the scones in the freezer, and I was doing 2 or 3 workshops a week, so the freezer was getting really full of leftover scones. So I came up with this recipe. You all are probably familiar with a traditional trifle, an English trifle that has layers of fruit and cake and jam, and even one of the very first trifles I ever made actually had Jell-O on the bottom, and that's one of our favorite components, at least mine, of a trifle. A good English trifle is to have Jell-O on the bottom, and then your cake that has spread with jam, maybe sprinkle a little bit of cream sherry in there, custard, whipped cream, and then repeat.
Right.
And so, but this one is super easy. And all you need is whipping cream, your leftover scones that have been crumbled up, chopped almonds, and then a fruit sauce that is orange juice and cornstarch and sugar, and those three have been heated on the stove until the orange is thickened, and then you add your fruit. Now tonight I used strawberries because I had strawberries, I didn't have blackberries, but I have done it with blackberries before, and the cookbook actually shows you that you can use strawberries, grapes, mandarin oranges, or raspberries or blackberries. And so, but tonight, that's what we're gonna do. And so, really, it's so easy. I do need a spoon. You just start by whipping your cream, and the cream has confectioner's sugar in it and a little bit of vanilla. And then I'm gonna add the cake and add the almonds. Again, if you know somebody with allergies, you can skip this part. And then you just want to gently fold. I mean, this is something you can do if you've got cream on hand. This is something that you may already have your ingredients on hand, and it's just, you can whip this up in no time at all. So just fold gently. Now, one of the things that the recipe says is to just spoon this into your glass, your parfait glass or your sherbet glass, and then top it with the fruit. Well, what I'm going to do, though, I think just for interest, is I'm going to add this and then I'm going to put a little bit of the fruit. And then I'm going to add more of the whipped cream on top. And so just layering it, just make it more interesting. I know, isn't that just decadent? You know, something else that would be good in that is pineapple.
Yeah.
And coconut.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Coconut,
my
for
gosh,
sure.
wouldn't that be good for Easter?
Coconut good.
Yes. Because, you know, typically we have trifle at Christmas time, but look at that. There's no reason why you can't have it
All around.
all year round.
Mm-hmm.
So there you are.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Pick it up.
Pick it up. Oh, that is done. There you go. Delicious.
And then I promised you I would tell you what page the mock signature cream is on, and it's on page 3.
Okay. Okay. So we have a question. Oh, we have a couple questions.
Okay.
How is black tea made to be decaffeinated? There's a process that they use while they're fermenting it, I believe. It's a CO2 process that somehow draws out the caffeine that's naturally in the leaves.
Right.
And I've explained in the past too, black tea is the strongest caffeine. And as it gets lighter, the caffeine decreases. So green tea has less caffeine than a black tea, and white tea has less caffeine than a green tea. White tea is almost decaffeinated,
Right.
but it does have a little bit of caffeine. And so if you're caffeine sensitive, then you need to be careful with that. And you can find, I don't carry any decaffeinated green or white teas. You can find them, they're hard to find.
Yeah.
And they tend to be expensive because it costs more to do that process. But one handy little tip is dump the pot. So you can get 99% of your caffeine out of your brewed tea by brewing it for 1 minute. Pour your hot water over your leaves for 1 minute, let it steep, and then dump that. Keep your leaves, and then pour new water on it, and that new pot of tea, cup, mug, whatever, will be like 99% decaf. And you're not losing any flavor because it's only being steeped for that 1 minute. It gets the caffeine out, and then you've got a mostly decaffeinated cup, pot, mug, whatever, of tea, and that will work for your black, green, and white teas. That works for all of them.
Yeah, another thing, Jen's teas, any that she carries that are decaffeinated, they are decaffeinated with the CO2 process,
Yeah.
which is the safer process. It is good to ask about that because the alternative is that the process they use formaldehyde, and that just
Yeah.
is frightening sounding. So
And
it is good to ask.
Yeah, and I think they're all moving away from that
Yeah, they
process.
are.
They're moving over to the CO2 process, and all of the decaf teas that I carry are CO2 processed to be decaf. I don't get any of the chemical decaf teas. So-
Now remember though, for those of you who are maybe new to this tea culture, the rooibos and the herbals are naturally decaffeinated, so they don't go through any process at all. They are dried. When they go through the drying process, they're already
yeah,
decaffeinated.
it's just a naturally decaffeinated plant. Another question is, for a perfect afternoon tea, should all of the guests drink the same type of tea, or should we ask each person which type they prefer? Well, it would be lovely if you wanted to ask your guests what they prefer. However, when I'm hosting a tea, they don't get to pick. I pick the teas for the courses when I do tea. So, and I think like when we did Mother's Day tea, we had 2
Yes,
teas.
right.
We did a black tea for the savory course, and then I offered a rooibos
Yeah, you might have.
for the later courses. You can offer more than one tea. You can offer just one, and that's what they get for the duration of the tea. That's entirely up to you. I said tea rooms give you a menu. Tea rooms are equipped to
Yeah.
provide more than one pot of tea to each guest.
Right. But we're not equipped to do that.
No.
I mean, the table that we have in the dining room will seat, I mean, I can have a seating of, anywhere from, ideally, it's 8 people to even 12 women there for tea. It would be impossible for me to cater to that many people a different flavor. However, I will say this, when I have that many for tea, or even 6 or 8, I usually have a pot at each end. I'll serve one end, and the 4 or 5 or 6 women at that end of the table, and then I usually seat someone I know who would be willing to be mother
Yeah.
to pour the tea at the other end. I may have an alternate flavor at the other end, but usually I know my guests. I've already scoped out what, or surveyed what they like, or maybe out of habit, maybe have had them here a number of times. I know what they like or don't like.
Right.
So, yeah, you just, again, this is an important part of getting to know your guests so you can cater to them.
Yeah. But if you please don't feel like you need to serve even more than one tea. One tea is sufficient.
Yeah, if that's all you can manage.
Yeah, if all you can manage is one tea, then pick a nice black tea and go with that. Or if you know you've got guests coming who are caffeine sensitive, pick a rooibos and you're good to go. So
Because mind you, when I do a tea in the dining room, I'm the one who comes into the kitchen to do a refill on a pot or to change to a different brew. I don't want people jumping up and down to help me necessarily, so I'm the one who's doing it. And again, as the hostess, you don't want to be away from your guests for too long.
right.
So I would say the most would be 2 flavors, but I think it's easier to change the flavor or the variety with each course.
With the course, right?
Not-
Because you're already out
Yeah,
to switch out,
right.
whatever. So, okay. Dad's writing down more questions, but I'll answer these while we're waiting for the next tea to steep, because this one steeps longer with what's coming next. So, so we're on the sweets course. I completely lost track of where we are.
We're on the sweets
We're
course.
on the sweets course. Okay. Okay. So for the sweets, you want to think about what is the sweet that that you're going to be serving. And so in this case, it's this trifle. And I didn't actually. I could have chosen better for going with this flavor profile, but I think it's gonna work. So I like to serve a rooibos or an herbal. If I were to serve a third tea, I would definitely go with a rooibos or an herbal to go with the dessert. Partly because you've already been caffeinated with the black tea in the earlier courses. You're talking about afternoon tea. I quit drinking caffeine after a certain time. So if you're doing tea at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm done with the black tea.
And sometimes
point.
it's at 4 o'clock by
Yeah,
the time you
it's-
get your sweets.
Right, exactly. So, so definitely go with the rooibos or the herbal because of the caffeine factor, but also because of the flavor factor. So rooibos is a little more naturally sweet. It's got almost a honey-like flavor to it. Like if you got just a basic rooibos that's unflavored, it's unadorned, just plain rooibos tea, it's naturally a nice sweetish tea that doesn't need anything
Right.
else to it. But most rooiboses are flavored, and that brings out that sweetness even more, and you're adding it to an already sweet course.
Right.
And then another one that I would serve would be a white tea, or just a straight up herbal, which is fruits, flowers. Yeah. So in this case, what I'm showing you is, so for Valentine's, we chose chocolate and roses. This is one of the very first blends that Mom created when she started the tea business. It's a chocolate rooibos that's mixed with rose petals. And you mostly can see the rose petals because they come up to the top. The rooibos is heavier and goes to the bottom of the thing, but trust me, there's rooibos in there. Let me see if I can. Well, there you go. You see rooibos right there. And so it's a nice romantic chocolate roses, traditional Valentine's tea.
It's one of my favorites.
Mom loves it. And then the other one I want to show is a white tea. This is the white chai. It's a really nice mild tea. It's got a little hint of coconut, pepper. It's not a strong chai like a traditional masala chai. It's a nice mild, a little hint of that cinnamony spice to it, but it's not overpowering. And I think it actually would go really well with
I think
that.
so too, and I think the thing about that one is that it doesn't compete.
Right.
I think that it is enough, it's distinctive on its own, but it doesn't compete,
Right.
and it complements.
Complements
It really
that
does.
a little bit,
Yeah.
But what I'm going to demonstrate is, since I already showed you a white tea, I'm going to demonstrate, this is newish to the shop. I created it back in the holiday season. It's part of the Harry Potter collection. It's Hagrid's Mulled Mead. And this is a rooibos herbal blend that is popcorn that you see in there, and cinnamon sticks. It's a fig and peach
Yeah.
flavor. I drink this every day.
It's so good.
It's so good. And I drank a big giant glass of it on ice last week. Oh, I'm so excited for summer.
And kids love the idea of the popcorn.
And the popcorn is fun, and it actually does add that little bit of nutty flavor to it. But it's a nice peach, fig. There are fig slices in here. There are dried peaches. There's a bunch of other fruit that's in here too, and rooibos. It does have some rooibos tea in it, and so I'm gonna get some of that popcorn and the cinnamon. And I'm actually going to boost it a little bit. So I'm going to pour the water. And so this, you want boiling water for rooibos and herbal. You want it hot, hot, hot.
Just come to the boil.
Yeah. And it's going to steep for 5 minutes or so. Because it can steep, and it can steep longer than that.
Yeah, you cannot overbrew rooibos or herbal.
No, you
can't
cannot. Yeah, they're not going to get bitter. All it does is get stronger.
Yeah.
So what we say for tea, black, green, white, is if you want it stronger, add more tea. Don't steep it longer; it gets bitter. But if you want stronger on the rooibos and the herbal, just let it sit. You can't screw up a rooibos or an herbal tea.
And especially if you're brewing that for iced tea,
Yeah, you want it
you
stronger.
want it a little bit stronger. And
Yeah.
actually, I know this is not the time of year that you're thinking about iced tea, but someone may ask the question, do you brew tea differently for iced tea? No,
Nope.
not really.
Nope.
You do it the same way. You might let it steep longer, but you don't have to.
No, you use more tea
More tea.
to
Yeah.
make it stronger.
Yeah.
If you're gonna add ice to it, which will water it down. So I do tend to brew my tea stronger for iced tea because I know I'm gonna be adding more water in the form of ice. Here's a tip: if you've got a pitcher of old iced tea, pour it into an ice tray, and then you'll have tea cubes, ice cubes that you can add to your next pitcher of iced tea, and it doesn't dilute it
Right.
down.
Another thing is, and I learned this years ago, when you brew tea to use for iced tea, do not put it in your refrigerator when it's hot. That's how you get cloudy tea.
Yeah.
Leave it on your counter until it's room temperature, and then you can put it in the fridge. But you don't want cloudy tea, so don't put your hot tea in there.
Okay.
Your pitcher might break anyway,
Depending on
on whether it's tempered. Yeah.
right. Okay, so someone asked where are we located? We are in Virginia, but I don't have a storefront. I'm only selling online. You can't come to my store because I don't have one. I have a room in my house that is full of tea, right? It's crazy. Tea in boxes and all kinds of other.
World headquarters.
It's the world headquarters of Tea for All Reasons is a tiny room in my house. I have no plans to have a storefront because I actually have a job and this is my side hustle. And yeah.
You'd like it to be your full-time job.
I would love for it to be my full-time job. If I could retire early and do this full-time, I would totally do it, but I can't. And I actually like my day job. Yeah, so we are in Virginia. I'm in the DC area, the suburbs of Washington, DC, and Mom
We're in the Shenandoah Valley.
is in the
It's
Shenandoah
about an
Valley.
hour away.
Yeah, so
So we get to see each other often and
Yep.
work together often.
at least once a month when I
At
come
least
to your
once a
house
month.
for this.
Yep.
And then Angela said Mother's Day tea was wonderful. Yep.
Oh, hi Angela.
Hi, Angela. Hi,
One of our
everybody.
favorite ladies.
Yeah, so doing a Mother's Day tea is an awesome idea. Well, we can't,
We may have to do an early one.
yes, we can't do Mother's Day tea.
We can't
Yes.
elaborate on that.
Yeah, got some stuff going on around then, but
Okay, we'll
And,
keep that in mind.
and I do carry a Mother's tea, a tea called Mother's Bouquet that will be added back into the shop in the next couple months. And yeah.
And I think
What's
you've got some new merchandise, some new products coming.
I have some new products coming. A lot of people in the Facebook group had asked about tea for one sets. Pot, it's like a teacup with a pot, and it's for one, and it's all it stacks and it's cute. I found some and I ordered them, and I'm hoping to get those sometime this week, and they'll get added to the shop whenever I can get them photographed.
And another perfect gift for your mom. It's a
Tea for
cookbook.
All Reasons cookbook or tea.
Or tea, yes.
And I also carry beaded tea infusers and just plain tea infusers. So if you're looking for Mother's Day gifts or gifts for anybody, and they like tea, come check out teaforallreasons.com. I definitely have plenty of stuff
Yeah, she does.
to offer. And I do have teacups and saucers, a couple, but I have more that I'm going to list in the spring, and some mugs available in the shop too. And my own Tea for All Reasons mugs that I keep
Right.
forgetting to promo.
Right. Well, and Angela had a great idea because that might be something that you really would like to do for your mom is to host a Mother's Day tea. So thank you for that suggestion. We'll take that to heart and see what we can do. Did you
Yeah,
mention
maybe-
what we were going to do next time?
Nope. Is it ready? Okay. Okay, so it looks a little weak.
Yeah, I think because the components are so large.
Yeah, they're
it's
large.
not
I
big.
needed more in there.
You needed more in there. Yeah. but
So
it's,
it looks a little bit weak. It's usually a little bit darker. And I think you're right. I need to add like a whole new scoop. Oops.
Oh,
no, that's not
nice,
bad.
though.
No, that's
That's
good.
good.
That's good. Perfect.
yeah.
Oh, I'm
You know, I
excited.
think that's what we're discovering with these glass pots, because we only use them for the demos.
Yeah.
And it comes out
Darker.
nicer looking in
Mhm.
the cup than in the pot.
So look, it has a nice little
A peachy
a peachy color to it, which is fantastic. And oh, I can smell it a little bit. It's figs and peach, and it's delicious and decaf. Yep. And like I said, I drink it every day. My husband loves it. I'm sorry. I know. And yeah, and it's really good. And so so don't be put off by the name or the fact that it's part of the Harry Potter collection. My daughter suggested that I do a Harry Potter collection, and so this was one that came out of it. But this is a fabulous rooibos tea that would work anytime.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
great, and it's yeah. I need to cough.
Well, this is the cup that she mentioned, the mug that she mentioned. It's on the website, the Tea for All Reasons mug. And this is the
It's the 11 ounce.
11 ounce, and there's
There's
a larger one,
a 15 ounce.
15 ounce.
Yeah.
So,
The 15 ounce will be in the video tomorrow for the giveaway.
okay.
And yeah, so don't forget the giveaway. If you tuned in late, there is a giveaway. We're giving away a cookbook and a 2 ounce bag of French lavender rose black tea. And the key phrase to put in the comments for the giveaway is food pair. All one word, food pair. And I will go through all of the comments tomorrow and write down everybody's name who said food pair. And then my daughter and I will get on camera sometime tomorrow afternoon and draw the name.
Right.
And
By the way,
I still have a tickle.
hubby and I have our own mugs. This is mine, and he has the larger one, so it's great for his and hers.
Yeah.
Great Father's Day gift.
Oh yeah?
Now, so we did want to talk about next time.
Yes. So, okay, so we covered, I think we covered everything.
yeah, we
And
did.
if you have questions, feel free to post them in the comments. If we missed any of the comments or questions tonight, we will try to follow up with those later. And I think we covered
I
everything.
think we did.
Somebody entered food pair and misspelled it, so why don't you spell it out? for me?
Foodpair, but I will take the misspelled food pair.
We
Did they
understand
spell
what you mean.
P-E-A-R?
No, the good pair.
Oh,
Oh,
good pair. Oh, yeah,
okay.
we know.
Yeah.
We know what they mean.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, if it looks like food pair, I will take that. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Okay, so yes, so for next time, mark your calendar for March 20th at 7 p.m. like usual. Saturday, March 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We will be doing it from my house, the world headquarters of Tea for All Reasons, where we're gonna show you kind of an inside look at how we come up with our custom blends. So
Yeah, we're not going to show you the blending process because that's a secret, but kind of how to come up, how I did initially, but how Jen is really taken off with coming up with some wonderfully creative blends, and just how that process is comes about.
yeah, I actually was gonna show blending, but I'm
Oh,
not
are
gonna.
you?
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm gonna not tell them what the components are necessarily
Or the quantities.
or the
right?
quantities. But I was gonna show you
Okay.
the raw ingredients in the bowl. Like I've taken pictures and posted in the
That's
group
true.
and on Instagram a picture of this is like I just did the St. Patrick's Day blends, the Pot of Gold and the Luck of the Irish blends, and I showed. Did I take pictures of those raw?
I don't know.
I don't think I
you've
did.
done After Dark before.
But I've done several of them where
Yeah.
I show the different components in the bowl in the raw form before I actually blend it, and I think I get good interest on that because I think it's interesting what goes into creating a good blend.
Well, it's true because a lot of this is a mom and daughter business, or actually was mom, now it's daughter, and so you get to see a lot more behind the scenes than you ever would in one of the larger companies.
Right.
You know, some of them do tours, but not into what goes on behind the scenes with blending and what have you. So,
Right.
so yeah, we love to offer something a little bit different, and so that you just have a more intimate relationship with us, which
Yep.
we love. We
Yep.
love that you
Yep.
really take an interest in what we do.
And so with that, we want to say thank you,
Yes.
thank you for supporting the page that Mom maintains, supporting the group, and I love our group.
Yeah.
Everyone is great. I love when you post your pictures and your comments,
Yeah.
and keep on doing that, please. And thanks for tuning in. And thanks, Dad, for doing your camera work. And thanks, Jesse, for monitoring questions. You're awesome. And with that,
We say it's a wrap.
it's a wrap. Yep. Good night, and we'll
folks.
see you in March.
Bye-bye.